Hey guys, Angie here to recap UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman for the welterweight title. Bit of a UFC hangover feel today, mainly because it was at a different time, the pay-per-view that is. So I got up in the morning in Australia, that's where I live, and watched the main card about 8 o'clock, and then I watched the rest of the card back later. So it was a bit of a weird feeling after watching the main card, and then it's just like, oh wow. And then anyway, it was a great event. Overall, my thoughts are I did notice the crowd was different because of the ticket pricing or something. I felt like all the real fans were out at the back in the nosebleeds, or far back in the cheaper seating because it was so expensive in London. So you could just hear people cheering from like this weird echo. So that was interesting. Yeah. God, let me think. So Edwards defeats Usman by majority decision. I had before the fight, obviously, I had Edwards winning by a later round TKO or submission. So the fight was really competitive, really close as well. Like most of those rounds, I had 4 rounds, actually, rounds 2 to 5 being close, and they could have arguably gone either way, but I kind of gave the edge to Leon in most of those rounds. So round 1 I had for Edwards. Round 2 was close, but I still gave it to Edwards. Round 3 was close, but I gave it to Usman, and regardless of the point deduction for the fence grab. Round 4 was really close. I still kind of leaned towards Edwards, and round 5 was similar, but still both rounds 4 and 5 were really close, and they could have gone either way. The reason why I leaned towards Edwards is because he landed more of the harder shots and more definitive shots, really crazy elbows and knees to the body, and those kicks to the legs. I think he was up on the significant strikes as well, and his accuracy was extremely high, around 70%, or maybe it was 65%. It was just a crazy, like, how he was landing them. So that's why I kind of scored the fight maybe 3-2 for Edwards, or 4-1. Yeah, I really think Usman may have had better luck on the scorecards if we went back to the old scoring system, because he was controlling the octagon, especially in the later rounds. And then again, he didn't have that much, he didn't really have any ground control or wrestling control or much clinch control, because even when he backed Leon against the cage, I feel like he couldn't really take it anywhere anyway. But the one thing that was allowing him to kind of pin him against the cage and land a few shots off the cage, which worked really well. But Leon had a really great way of just getting off the cage and then going back to the center immediately. So Usman will keep pushing him against the cage, and Leon will keep backing to allow kicking space. And then it looked like he was going to be in a really bad position, but I think he was using the fence for part of his wrestling defense, and then he had really great ways of just coming straight back to the center. It was really really good work from Leon there. With Usman, I was really impressed with him. I thought he fought like the best fight he could have. I think the one thing that didn't really help him, apart from like the new scoring system, is he was sort of fighting offensively, defensively, especially for the first couple of rounds. I think he was still trying to ease into it, and I think that's how you should fight after coming off a really bad KO like that. What does this say? Yeah, he controlled the center. Oh yeah, and another thing about Usman that a few people mention, especially Colby likes to mention, which I'll get into Colby later. Usman really likes to take timeouts whenever he can, and sometimes it's legit, other times it's not. But it's not a bad tactic if you feel a bit nervous and you want to sort of ease into the fight a bit more. But Usman does this a lot. I find he does it especially in the earlier part of the fight, or the later parts when he's like trying to ease in and ease out or whatever he's trying to do. It's kind of like a comfort trick, but Michael Bisping in the commentary, who did an amazing job, like, I think he's been the best he's been for a very long time in the commentary. Maybe it's because he was on home soil or something, but he said, yeah, when you're fighting, you've got to be in the moment. You're not trying to look for the way out all the time, and I think that's a very good point that he made. But it was still competitive. I felt like Edward landed the harder shots. Edwards, that is. He kneed Usman a couple of times, I think, really, that would have knocked anyone else out. Usman took the shots well. He had his chin held up really well, and I think that's because he saw the shots coming. You know, he could prepare for them a little bit mentally, because it's the shots you don't see at all that knock you out like that. So that was, he kind of won in that way. He did really well. I think Usman really didn't throw enough offense to really win the fight, and that's kind of what happened with him there. But he was fighting defensively, and he mentioned that Edwards had a really good game plan, and maybe that was getting off the fence. I would like to know more about what he meant, but Usman was throwing the jab that worked really well. His coach mentioned that. I don't know how much he used it, because he seemed to minimize the exchanges, which is what he should have done, I guess. And I mentioned he would have benefited from the old scoring system. Edwards, on the other hand, he threw some really great shots to the body and to the legs that I thought were really clever, and I was almost surprised that Usman didn't want to defend them, but he took them well. It seemed like he took them well, like all those body kicks. I thought he was going to keel over and just be affected, but he took them well. I think it might be his body type, because he is very sort of buff on his torso, so maybe that's what it is. Edwards also had really great takedown defense, wrestling defense, as I mentioned. Clean knees, was highly accurate. The only thing that I found a little bit concerning was sometimes Leon has his body language makes him look like he's not doing as well as what he's doing, and I just hope that the judges didn't pick up on that and interpret it the wrong way. Because I think it's the way he fights. He just steps back, and the old scoring system might score that differently, but he was doing that. I think he was constantly stepping back to allow the kicking range, and he had success with that. And he even landed that head kick. He landed it partially, so he did all right. And Edwards landed more strikes, and he landed harder strikes. And for me, it was clear that Leon had won, unless the judges really fucked it up. But kind of sad for Usman. I thought he was going to retire if he lost, but he didn't. He's like, oh no, I'm not done. I kind of wish he would retire, because I'd rather see him sort of retire now when he's on top, rather than try and go through the ranks again. And also because of his age and his injuries, I would have liked to see him retire, but I guess who wants to retire off, 2 losses like that? So I respect him. I would have liked to see Usman go up to middleweight. I've always wanted to see him fight Robert Whittaker. I think that would be an amazing fight. I don't know why, I just would really like to see it. So that's about all I really have about the main event. So Colby is the spanner in the works. Well, not the spanner in the works, but he's like a big topic coming out of this event. First of all, because he was the backup fighter for the main event, and there was rumours, and then I don't think Leon or Kamaru even knew about that. And then he weighs in. Obviously he wasn't needed, but the UFC used that to set him up for the next fight, especially if Leon had won. And now Dana White is saying that COLBY Covington is the backup fighter, the next fighter to fight Leon Edwards. And I was just, at first I was so angry because, well, I wasn't angry, I was disappointed as like a hardcore MMA fan. I want to see the right contender get a shot Colby's had 2 shots at the belt. He's had 1 fight since losing since failing to get the belt the second time. 1 fight against Masvidal, who's on a losing streak, and now all of a sudden he's getting another shot. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I think they should at least give him. Why didn't they make Colby versus Belal Muhammad or something like that? But personally, I think Belal Muhammad should get the next title shot. I know people say he's not as popular in that, but I would really like to see him get it because I think he deserves it out of anyone right now. So that's disappointing from like a merit point of view, but then again, Colby is really entertaining and I'm a big fan, but I just wish sometimes the promotions will get it right. Like, it's nice to give some of these popular guys, some, a bit more favoritism, which they've done, but this is just like on another level. Completely new level. So I feel a bit bad for Belal Muhammad because in my book he's the rightful #1 contender. No one else really stands out to me. Gilbert's had his shot, Masvidal's had his shot. They're fighting each other soon. It's just a little bit disappointing to see them just favour the same guy over and over. And the other part to that is that I think Colby's style matches up really well against Leon Edwards, so he may just do it if that fight does come to fruition. I can see Colby having a really good chance against Leon Edwards. So we'll see what happens there. But having said all that, I would enjoy seeing Colby fight all the trash talk and, lead up to that fight. So there you go. Can't be too pissed off. But I do feel for Belal Muhammad. And I think Belal Muhammad's a really great fighter, and he's proved a lot of people wrong, so I'm always going for the underdog in everything, so usually. Anyway, that's the main event. GAETHJE versus FIZIEV stole the show, as everyone anticipated, but maybe for different reasons. I didn't write any notes for this. So the week leading up to this fight, I thought, oh yeah, FIZIEV's going to be good, and everyone's talking about him being, the best striker in the UFC and all this stuff. But I think a couple of days before this fight or the event, I sort of did choose. I had a feeling GAETHJE will be a bit tougher and gnarlier and have bigger balls, pretty much. And so I did pick him to win by decision. Sorry I didn't cover this in my video, I just didn't have time. And then that happened, but I still was surprised at how amazingly well GAETHJE did in this fight. He just took everything FIZIEV had. FIZIEV had a really good game plan, I thought, because he was targeting the body, he was kicking it, and he was really targeting GAETHJE's body to slow him down. It didn't slow him down. It didn't seem to slow him down for some reason. And then GAETHJE just took over and mauled him. It was an incredible fight by GAETHJE. I was really impressed, and I was not expecting that kind of fight. I was expecting GAETHJE to get beat up a little bit more, but I think he just overwhelmed FIZIEV in the end, and that was just incredible. So, not much more to say than that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't actually watch Gunnar Nelson and versus BRYAN BARBERENA. I watched the end of it and I saw Gunnar Nelson get the submission. Sorry, I don't have much more to say than that, but I know Gunnar Nelson's like a really popular guy. I think he was before my time though, so I need to actually do my research on him. But the crowd loved that one. So King Casey versus Jennifer Maia versus King Casey. So I was really pleased with myself with this fight, only because I had a feeling. I picked I picked Maia to win a decision, I think. And a lot of people saying that King Casey was going to win, and I'm Australian, so I should be a fan of King Casey, and I'm not really a fan yet because I love Roxanne Modafferi, and she kind of just beat up Roxanne, but I mean, who hasn't? But anyway, I mean, she was disrespectful to Roxanne, didn't like that, but it'll wear off. It's okay. I had a feeling that King Casey was coming up against a really tough opponent, coming off that surgery and that layoff, and also given her experience. Casey O'Neill is really talented, another fighter I'm going to talk about in a second. She's really talented. I heard Israel Adesanya say that she gets a bit of, not stage fright, but she doesn't perform as well in the octagon. She's a lot better in the gym, and maybe it might take a bit of time for that to come across properly. I just had a feeling that maybe it was too soon for her to face Jennifer Maia, who gave Valentina Shevchenko a tough fight, even though it was a while ago. Because Casey's only had 9 fights, and when you're undefeated, and sometimes you don't have that that wake up call that you're not invincible. And I think it's good for a fighter to know they're not, so that they can just work that little harder or get a little bit of humbling. I don't know. Jennifer Maia just completely beat her up on the feet. The fight didn't really go to the ground. Jennifer Maia sort of alleged Casey O'Neill for wearing some sort of body oil or something to make her slippery, which sometimes the fighters do. I thought that was more of an old school thing, but she said that happened. So that's probably why they didn't go down there. I'm not sure who has the better jiu-jitsu. I know Casey O'Neill's a brown belt. I thought Maia was a black belt, but anyway, it doesn't matter because the fight didn't really go to the ground anyway. Casey O'Neill couldn't really find her range, and she seemed to be waiting a bit too much, and I honestly just think it was the fact that she hadn't been in the octagon for so long, and I really think it's just an experience thing. It takes time to perform. It takes time to get used to performing in a different environment. It's fine, like you can practice all day in the gym, but once you go on stage or the octagon, it's a completely different thing for some people. Like sometimes you've got to give it a bit of time to get used to. So I think it's just a matter of that. But I also think she just needs time to just tune up again with people that aren't as high, because what's the rush? Like, she's still young. She's still a little bit... She's just got to give herself time to get used to being in the octagon, and that's it. So I think this is probably a good experience for Casey O'Neill, and she'll definitely be back way better. So I just hope she's not too negatively affected by it, but she shouldn't be. Marvin Vittori and Roman Dolidze. I actually had Roman winning this fight, although Marvin won. I thought Marvin... I picked Marvin to win before the fight, a decision. But the commentators did mention that Roman Dolidze was throwing a lot of punches that weren't landing, so maybe I wasn't watching it properly, but I would have given the edge to Roman. It was kind of a close fight, just back and forth. I think, Roman was just throwing more. They weren't particularly landing, but it looked like he was busier, so that's probably why I thought Roman might win it. Apart from that, I'm happy Marvin won, because I think he deserved to win, but still, I'll have to watch that back to really know, and that's about it. Anything to say on the prelims? I didn't really watch a lot of these fights. I watched MOHAMMAD MOKAEV, and I can't believe he didn't tap to that knee bar. Hope his knee's okay. Didn't look good. It looked like I felt like I was watching it and actually saw it go, because the knee joint isn't meant to go back at all, but I feel like I felt it go. So I hope he hasn't fucked anything up there. He said he was going to take a year off anyway, but he said it was for a holiday, so I hope he's okay. And I did want to talk about the first fight of the night, Juliana Miller and Veronica Hardy, or Macedo. I'll just say Veronica Hardy because that's her name and it's easy to say. So I just got to say this. I picked Veronica to win because she's been working with Dan Hardy for the past 3 years, and I thought there's no way that she hasn't learned anything in all that time. She's going to be so prepared for this fight. I love both of these fighters. Juliana Miller, she's really, really, really talented, but she's only had 6 fights. And before, like, this fight, she'd only had 4 wins and 1 loss. That's really, really green. She's just coming off the, what was it? The Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, so I think she's got a really good physique for the weight division. I just think she's gotta just take it slow and build her skills up, because she's got like the heart. She's got a fighter's attitude. She's gonna be so good, but I just want her to not take it too fast. Um, but Veronica did amazing. Let me think back to the fight. I can't believe she was so confident in those positions where Miller had her in these triangles, threatening triangles and arm bars, but Veronica was confident enough to know that the submission will fail if she kept hitting her, and that was like a very gutsy approach, I thought. But maybe if they'd stayed on the feet more, Miller might have beaten her up a bit. But Veronica was far more accurate. She was extremely accurate, actually, on the feet. So I was a bit surprised she didn't want to just take it to the feet and beat her there. But maybe she's more comfortable on the ground, because I think she's a black belt. I think that's her first sort of art. But yeah, that's about it, really. Thanks for watching. I might need to cut this back a bit because I got a big project I need to finish, but it's been great doing this, and I'll see you around the traps.